Rosh Hashanah is fast approaching, and with it, the 10 days of awe. This is something that has meant a lot to us for the last couple decades. We have some preliminary work to do before we even talk about how to practice the 10 days of awe, because this is a Jewish celebration of Jewish holidays, and we, as we like to say on this podcast, are Christopagan Druids. There's a lot of conversation to be had about cultural appropriation, interspiritual dialogue, ecumenical activities, and all those fun things. This is going to be a deep one. So take a deep breath. Come along with me as we discuss this together as we walk down creation's paths. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I am a Christopagan Druid and priest of Brigid. I'm joined by my husband.
Hello, I'm Brian. I am a Christopagan Druid, sous chef to the Dada.
Today, we're going to be talking about interspirituality, deep ecumenism, how to interact with other faiths and other faith traditions. This is probably the most complicated discussion we can have. Even if you're not planning on practicing the 10 days of awe, which are coming up, this really is a topic that we need to sit with together, because we're going to be talking about this in our relationship with Judaism, but this is very true for a lot of other traditions as well, because we have a lot of eclectic practitioners in the community. Living our truth of sovereignty means living in right relationship with the traditions that we are relating to. So even if you're not practicing this particular holiday coming up, or set of holidays coming up, we need to make sure that we are having right relationship with the other traditions that we're drawing from. Okay? I think some people might want to check out because, well, I'm not going to be doing this particular thing, but we're going to be talking much more philosophical this episode. We'll be talking about the 10 days of awe specifically before they get started.
We're addressing the question of, what does that mean to me? I'm not Jewish.
Also, how to interact with a very fraught relationship that has developed over the past few millennia.
Yeah.
So before we get into all of that, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology is on the platform that you're listening to us on. We do new original Christopagan Druid content every day on this channel. You don't want to miss anything. Samhain is coming up. The 10 days of awe are coming up. It is a jam-packed month in October, and we have a lot of good content coming your way, and you don't want to miss any of it. So don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, whatever you got to do on the platform you're hearing me on. All right, now we got that out of the way. Let's talk about the uncontroversial topic of deep ecumenism.
I'd love to start with a little joke. Funny, you don't look Jewish. Mel Brooks.
I'm a fan of Mel Brooks. Ever since we decided to join a Druidic order and become very mindfully practicing Druids, I have heard that line from Spaceballs through in the back of my head almost every time I say that I'm a Druid. It did. Now, Brooks, what have you done to me? Oh, man. So the 10 days of awe are coming up. And just in brief, the 10 days of awe are the period between Rosh Hashanah, which is the new year, and Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement. This is a time of self-reflection, of getting yourself into those right relationships. Again, why this holiday is very important to us. It is mystically believed to be the days that the Book of Life is reopened and our names are inscribed in it with our fate for the upcoming year. So there's a lot going on with these 10 days. But first, the actual what we're going to be doing on those 10 days, what you can do on those 10 days, that's a future episode.
Yeah, it's a future episode coming out in a couple days because this is a lot and we don't want to spend... We're trying to keep the episodes not being an hour, or 2 hours, or 4-hour lecture or anything like that.
Today, we're just focusing on the deep ecumenism of it all. That might be a new phrase for you. Let me break it down. Ecumenism is an idea that came up amongst the various Christian sects of how can we get along? We all are talking to Jesus, but we're always at each other's throat, like there have been wars and all kinds of stuff. How can we communicate? How can we talk to ourselves? Over the years, this has expanded in the Catholic Church and the Second Vatican Council. The idea of ecumenism was expanded to all faiths around the world, that we should be looking for the wisdom in every faith. By the way, an idea that goes back to Augustine. I have a lot of bad things to say about Augustine, but that is one of the things that he got right.
I thought it actually got linked all the way back to when the disciples came to Jesus complaining that people were doing things in his name and weren't part of their group. And he's like, there are others out there that are going to do good things. It's okay. And I thought it was also born out of Paul, where you see the truth in other things.
So yes, scripturally, that is where the idea comes from. The actual doctrine is laid out by Augustine in his book on Christian charity. It is actually one of the aspects of love, that we should listen to people of faiths different than our own. Augustine, please, why didn't you listen to yourself?
Yeah.
Hypocrisy is strong with that man. He even argues in there that, and I believe his phrase is, the darkest of heresies, you can still find a kernel of the truth of God. He goes through some of what he considered to be damnable heresies and showed, but here is a true thing that is in it that we can still find. It is a remarkable book to read.
Very ironic in a way, because it is tragic that the person that brought this forward also basically put forward a lot of heresy, a lot of bad teaching.
And also is the reason we persecuted a lot of people, and he himself went on to persecute others. Yeah.
Behind a lot of the persecutions, a lot of misogyny.
It is one of the great ironies of history.
Yeah.
But deep ecumenism is when it actually affects our practice. So the difference here between just general ecumenism is, how do we talk to each other? How do we have dialogue? Deep ecumenism is something we see a lot more of today. This is often referred to more colloquially as an eclectic spirituality, where, these ideas from Buddhism, these ideas from Judaism, these ideas from Christianity, these ideas from this kind of paganism, that kind of paganism. You see it a lot in Wicca. There are a lot of eclectic witches out there. You see it in a lot of different groups where they're just taking little bits and piecing together a worldview from them. Deep ecumenism has to be rooted in right relationship. And we are about as deeply ecumenical as you can get. Part of our work with the Christo part of the Christopagan is we are trying to do for Christianity what pagan reconstructionists are doing for paganism. We're trying to figure out, what was Christianity like? What would it have been like had it developed without this imperial bent in it? What would it have looked like if original sin hadn't come in? And we do have examples. The Orthodox Church never accepted original sin. So we do have examples to look to, but it did give in to a lot of the imperial aims of both the groups, that the nations that it was part of, and the states that it was part of. There's still some reconstruction to do there, which is why we didn't just go Orthodox. It was in such a way that in a lot of places, to be considered a whatever Orthodox is akin to being considered ethnically that thing. It's very deeply tied to that statehood.
Yeah, nationalism.
Nationalism is something that doesn't really come about till the 1700s. So nationalism is a fruit of that imperialism, but it is something that's about later.
In terms of nowadays, it also, in my limited experience, has a lot of that nationalist element added in on top of the imperialist element. And
so for us, a lot of this has to do with reconnecting us back to our Jewish roots, because Christianity started as a sect of Judaism. And that shouldn't be a shocking statement, but I still run into people that are shocked when they find this out. Jesus was Jewish. All of the original apostles were Jewish. Of all of the books of the New Testament, only one is admittedly written by a non-Jew.
Some of the earliest debates of the church was, are we actually a Jewish sect, or are we something new?
Well, does somebody have to family convert to Judaism?
Yeah, does somebody have to... does a non-Jewish person have to convert to Judaism before they can join in?
Do you have to follow all of the food laws? Do you have to be circumcised? Yeah. And this is crystallized in the Council of Jerusalem in Acts 15. Paul writes about it in his letters. Then the fake person who wrote in Paul's name tries to undo some of this later. And that's basically, if it's a letter of Paul written to a person, Paul didn't write it. So the Timothys, Titus, and Philemon, Paul did not write those books. They were written in his name about a century after he died. It's important to bear in mind because a lot of the most misogynistic, imperial, and I would say flat out evil stuff that is in Paul is in his books. That's the empire creeping its way in. And most of the early church didn't want them in there. But I'm digressing. We do have examples that we could look at because we have groups that existed that we have a few of their writings surviving. There were the Elkosites and the Ebionites that were condemned as heresies for being Judaizers, and that is problematic. Because if we're going to reconnect to our Jewish roots, the first thing we have to do is reckon with the history of anti-Semitism in the church. Christianity did not invent anti-Semitism. The Romans did. A particular Roman did. That would be Flavius, the guy who built the Colosseum, because he wanted to be emperor really, really bad. And he needed an enemy that would show that he was a big, strong man who would protect the Roman Empire. And so he had propaganda written against the Jews because he was fighting during the Jewish revolts. He was leading several of the legions during the Jewish revolts. He had to make them into the scariest, biggest monsters ever so that he could come back to Rome and say, look how big I am. I defeated this people that has been under subjugation since recorded history remembers. There's only a brief period of Hasmonean rule where they were under self-rule between them being conquered by the Greeks. It's a thing. And so he made them out to be the enemy. There was a big struggle, and unfortunately Christianity, as it made many bad decisions in its early years, decided to go on the record as, and I do like the phrase that Rabbi Shapiro uses for this, Jew hatred, because that is what we're talking about here. And it was wrong. Passages were written into the scripture that do not make sense. There's a passage in Luke, for example, where Jesus calls for all of the Jews that don't believe in him to be brought to him so he can cut their heads off. Yeah, I saw the look on you guys. Well, don't. That's in there.
Did I forget that passage?
Yes, most Christian groups now just try to pretend the stuff isn't in there and jump over it.
Yeah.
And it's often placed, this, like everything else, like Jesus wasn't cutting people's heads off in the Gospels. This is him talking about in the future, the Son of Man will come, and all those who do not believe in him will be, of the children of Abraham will be brought before him, and he shall take their heads with a sword. He prophesies, which makes no sense for Jesus.
Which doesn't make any sense, considering this is the guy who, yes, he had his apostles get a sword. So if you're going to have a revolt, you would have had them get more than one sword, first of all, because there's at least, 13, 14 of them around, if not more. Aside that point, then when one person uses the one sword, he heals the victim of that sword. Like, this is not somebody who, Sorry.
And all of the rest of his teachings are about passive nonviolence.
Yeah.
How to deal with the Romans. This is why I don't like a lot of the modern interpretations. He was trying to teach people how to resist an empire that would slay them. What Jesus says, if somebody slaps you on the cheek, turn to them your left. If somebody slaps you on the right cheek, turn to your left. This isn't some statement of, and then if they hit you on the left, then you strike back. This is, you give them the other one as well, because if they don't, they will kill you and your family. This is the audience he's talking to. If somebody demands of you your coat, a Roman soldier had the right to walk up to any non-citizen and say, give me your coat. I'm cold. If you did not give them to them, they had the right to kill you and your family and take it. So Jesus says, if they ask, just give them your coat and give them your cloak also. That's not how we're going to win. We're not going to win by force. This is the strongest military in the world. We are not winning by force. We're going to have to win some other way. And in a way, they kind of did win. I mean, the Christian group did take over the Roman Empire. But I find it bizarre that somebody who teaches this form of passive resistance that would inspire Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King would also be like, oh yeah, I'm not just going to kill a whole bunch of people. It's very out of character. But we have to condemn that anti-Semitism. We have to condemn that Jew hatred because there's no reason for that. We have to condemn the blood libel. Jews did not kill Jesus. First of all, if we want to take Paul literally, everyone killed Jesus. Paul's argument is we were evil and would not accept goodness when it walked amongst us, so we killed him. That's Paul's argument. If you want to blame anybody, everybody did it. We're all guilty. We all killed Jesus. Quite literally, the Romans killed Jesus because only a Roman could give a death penalty. He died on a Roman cross with Roman nails after being condemned by a Roman prefect, Pontius Pilate. Now, there's an anti-Semitic passage that gets inserted into the scriptures in the book of John, where high priest says, let his blood be on us and all the generations to follow. That's part of the blood libel. And this makes no sense for Caiaphas to have said. This makes no sense for anyone to have said. And no Christian would have heard this, because no Christian would have been there, because this is a private meeting between Pontius Pilate, the high priest. It makes no sense. It is, just to go back to Augustine for a minute, the problem with original sin. Because original sin says, yes, but there are exceptions that one person's sin being imputed on other generations. Because again, the scriptures are very clear about this. You are not responsible for the sins that were committed by the people before you. It's very clear about this. Moses in the law, the prophets repeat it over and over and over again, and Jesus repeats it several times in the gospel.
Father eats a sour grape. Does it set your mouth at edge?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
So
Jesus' teachings.
it's one of the reasons you have to get rid of original sin, because it allows this evil to perpetuate. And so, yes, we condemn anti-Semitism and Jew hatred in all of its forms. I know that there is a struggle right now with everything going on in Gaza. And all I'm going to say about that is that it's being done by the imperial state of Israel and not by the Jewish people. That's being done by one little man who is desperate to stay in power so he doesn't go to jail. I think we in the United States can empathize with what one petty little man will do to keep from getting put in jail, because we're going through that right now. Strongmen want to be strongmen. I am living in a state where my governor, I want to use the M word here, and I will say allegedly murdered, used the apparatus of the state to kill an innocent man so that he could look strong heading into the election. States do bad things. Not everyone in the state is responsible, and that is true for Israel as well. In fact, they are protesting in the streets against him, and he is ignoring them. So I know there are some mixed feelings right now because of what is happening in Gaza and what's happening now in Lebanon, but this is one of those places that is a state that's not even listening to his own people who are demanding the violence to stop. So that's separate. But the other big problem here that we need to discuss is how we as non-Jews can access these holidays. It's tricky. This is really tricky. My inroad to this is I am in relationship with quite a few Jewish people. They are always reminding me when the holidays are coming up and making sure I'm ready to celebrate them and everything, because I have a B'nai Noach relationship with them. I consider myself Dati. I have thought about converting to Judaism several times, but I feel like my faith is a bit too eclectic to just join in Judaism, though it is very tempting for me. In my relationship, this is something that, like I said, we were contacted the other day by some Jewish friends of ours, and have you got your menu set up yet? Or here's our menu, here's what we're doing. Do you know what you're going to be doing for the 10 days? And that's not saying I have been asked by a couple Jewish people, therefore it is okay. What I'm trying to say is we are living as best we can in right relationship to our Jewish siblings. I am not a rabbi. Brian is not a rabbi. Our practice will be different from theirs. That's okay. We do not own Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, though it is part of our tradition as well. It is part of the scriptural tradition found in our Bible as well as in their Torah, because their Torah is part of our Bible. I would never co-opt their services. I do not want to make my voice louder than theirs. I always feel like if you want more information, we're going to be talking about the Jewish High Holy Days. We're going to be talking about Rosh Hashanah. We're going to be talking about Yom Kippur. We're going to be talking about the 10 days of awe. I highly recommend that you look up some Jewish sources and hear what they have to say about it and how they recommend people participate in these days. Because the way I look at this is the prophet Micah says, at the end of the world, after the day of judgment, all the nations will come to Jerusalem to celebrate these festivals. And they will bring with them their gods, and the Jews will have their God. This is after the day of judgment. It's, I think, one of the most missed scriptures in all of Scripture. A lot of people want to say, no, our religion is the only religion. But apparently, at least to Micah, in the end, all of the other faiths are still going to be here. The day of judgment has happened. The world has been restored to right and good. And everything has been made perfect. And yet there are other religions. I don't think it can be clearer than that.
That is where that deep ecumenism comes in recognizing what are the energies of this feast, this time period coming up, making sure we're in right relationship with those energies, making sure that our practice is structured as our practice, but still in right relationship with the existing practices there, because it's not there to supplant or replace or become dominant over, because that's a bad relationship. The whole point is to be in right relationship. So yes, our practice will work with those energies that are there in that time period, because there's already going to be all that generated and out there.
I am not a supersessionist. I do not believe that Christianity superseded Judaism. We are sibling faiths, and we need to live in right relationship with each other. These days are important, especially for both my spiritual practice as a Christian in making sure that I am right with God, but also in my Druid practice, because it is all about living in right relationship and taking 10 days every year to examine my conscience, to examine my mind. Remember, at the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, if you don't know, all oaths are suspended. After the 10 days, you get to take them up again if you want to, but all oaths are suspended on the first day. We get to choose which ones we take up going forward from here, making sure that all of my experiences are in line with my ethics, with the way that I want to live. Taking those 10 days every year are very important to me. Taking those 10 days every year to really sit with my conscience and think, how could I have done things better? What could I do better going forward from there? This is not a time of flagellation. We're not here to beat ourselves up and say, oh, we're bad people. That's what the imperial church would do. This is a time of turning. The practice that we do during this period is called teshuvah. Teshuvah literally means return. We are returning to our soul. We're returning to our true self. We're returning to the past. We're taking the time to examine our lives and to figure out what we need to do to improve and make better. Yes, we should do that often, but in dedicating these 10 days specifically to this, we're intently looking over, am I in the right profession? Am I doing the right projects? Am I living the way I should be living? Am I treating other people the right way?
What oaths have I promised? Just taking stock of that. Are you going to be freed from? I also love that this period falls right around the new year for the Druids sowing. Oftentimes it's before, sometimes it's even after, but it's right around the new year. And that's, once again, that's
Our New Year.
yeah, it's your new year and your New Year's resolution, and it all lines up. And it's really nice because as part of the new year, you're supposed to review your contracts. You're supposed to rethink about all this.
Well, this is not our New Year. Our New Year starts on Sawa. This is the Jewish New Year. And thus, in living in right relationship, my deference goes to them. We will probably watch some synagogue services. We will probably say some more traditional prayers, but we are not here to take from them. We are here to practice with them.
Yep.
It's in that spirit of humility we are entering these 10 days. And that is how all of our ecumenical relationships need to be, is in this state of humility, that we are not just appropriating these holidays for our own use and saying, no, they're ours now.
We're not colonizing it.
We're not colonizing it. Now, our practices will differ from theirs because our faith is our own, but always in deference to the faith that originated.
In a way, you could think of it almost like a parent-child relationship. You're going to give honor to your parents. You're going to give deference to your parents. Respect, have that relationship with parents because they were your forebears that came before you. But you are still yourself, and so it's still going to be you. And it's that same thing with the deep ecumenism, where you're recognizing the parent heritage that you received the practice from and living in right relationship with that, because they are an entity in and of themselves, but you are also you. And so you'll be different.
This really is a time for that kind of deep interspirituality. Because again, while the way Rosh Hashanah and practice today have been honed by 2,000 years of Jewish practice and life, these are practices that were very important to our founders as well. Jesus, James, John, Paul.
Yeah.
They all, Peter, they all practiced these holidays. And asking ourselves, how would they practice? How would this practice have continued if we had continued them forward? What would that have looked like? Where would we be today if we had continued in this relationship? Because that's the other thing that I see about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, is this is a time of reconnecting. Because I do not practice Passover in the Jewish sense. I practice Easter in the Christian sense. And sometimes they coincide and sometimes they don't. These holidays and the Feast of Dedication, or Hanukkah, are also very important to me because Jesus actually taught a bunch of parables on Hanukkah, for Hanukkah, and it's a wonderful time to meditate on those. And so we practice a version of that as well, but we're trying to reconnect to our roots, but always with the humility. We are not Messianic Judaism. We are not trying to convert Jewish people. We don't think Jewish people need conversion. They are fine as they are. No one has to convert to anything. That's not how any of this actually works.
Yeah. Also, a throwback to the previous episode where we talked about the cycles of the year. This also fits into those cycles of the year. These are some of the holidays that are practiced because it's good to have those reminders. It's good to have that reinforcement. Like forgiveness and right relationship is something we should be practicing all the time, but it is good to set aside to create a sacred space for this time period is fully focused on to reinforce that practice, to pick up additional habits and whatnot.
I know for me, one of the things I ask for forgiveness for every Yom Kippur is for forgiveness for the association with all those who in Christ's name and in the name of the church still do harm and persecute our Jewish siblings, and that we may be inspired to find ways to end that harm, because Jesus is about love. John says very clearly that God is love, and if you do not know love, you do not know God. If I can get through to anyone who may have hate in their heart, if you have hate in your heart, God cannot dwell there. You're actively dispelling that goodness and that life and those connections that you could have. Hopefully this has helped you out a little bit. I know we haven't really talked about what happens on the 10 days of awe. Again, we're going to be doing another episode about that in the near future as we're getting ready for these holidays, these holy days. But we really wanted to just start by talking about how we interact with other faiths, because it is very important for us living both our truth and continuing the right relationships that we want to have. If you have any questions, do let us know. You can leave a comment if you're listening to us on Spotify or YouTube right there. They will notify us and we will be able to see it and respond. If you have any questions, you can leave them there as well. If you're listening to us anywhere else, even if they say that you can comment, they do not notify us. So you can leave a comment there for engagement purposes, but copy it and head over to creationspaths.com and click on chat and post it there. Because they will notify us and we will see it and we'll be able to have a conversation with you. While you're over there, if you have a few dollars that you can pass our way, you can think about taking up a membership over there. It really does help us out a lot. And if you want to support us in other ways, you can go to either Patreon or Ko-fi. I am CE Dorset on both. CEDORSETT. That supports everything that I do, including making music, the stories that I write, and everything. This money helps us to keep roof over our heads, food on our table, and the lights on. And thank you to everybody who does that. It really does mean a lot to us. So as we are getting ready to go into this most holy season, may the one life inspire us to see how we have lived over the last year and to really ask the question, how can we live in right relationship with all of the people that we encounter through our day, that we might actually restore the world and bring about the perfection we want to see in the world to come. Amen.
Amen.